I have to keep my... Oh, there we go. Hi, I'm Steve Plater, and welcome to this edition of Voices from the Village. Voices is really pleased to be back after a brief hiatus, and we'll be bringing you issues-oriented shows covering the entire community every second and fourth Sunday throughout the rest of the year. Please tune in 2 weeks. My good friend and co-host, Sandino Gomez, will be hosting a panel on rail trail, which, as we know, is a very complex and controversial issue in Santa Cruz County. But we are really happy tonight to have with us again the folks from Reelwork May Day Labor Film Festival. It's become kind of a tradition every year to have Jeffrey and Sarah here and talk about the films and preview the films that people will see and give them just a glimpse of what you'll be able to view and screen as we go through the festival. So welcome, Sarah Ringler. Welcome back. Vice President, Retirees, Pajaro Valley Federation of Teachers.
Yes.
And then Jeffrey Smedberg, of course, a longtime activist and labor activist with the SEIU 521. And as I understand it, you're still president of the local Troublemakers Union. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Anyway, really happy to have you here. You know, this show has become a tradition for a really iconic event in Santa Cruz. The festival is so wonderful, and people really enjoy screening the films and really getting a taste of the eclectic nature of it. Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Reelwork and how you came to kind of be associated with it.
Well, I'm now a retired teacher, but I taught for 29 years, and I was always really happy to be in a union and have especially the California Federation of Teachers and the American Federation of Teachers to be part of that union. It's an activist union, and it was real easy for me to become involved with them. So when Jeffrey started talking about having a film festival, I thought, boy, this is a really good way to get labor issues out in the community and give the community a place to go and a place to see some of these films that really talk about what many people end up doing is going to work every day.
Absolutely.
And going to work every day and how that is something that affects a lot of us. So that's how I got involved, and then and it was one of those events where it had an end to it. It wasn't like going on every month, day in and day out. So we'd have the festival, and the festival would end, and then another year start up again.
And I think it's interesting. Again. Yeah, you highlight what I think is a really important point and that is the value of our local workforce and how we really should honor and treasure the people who go to work every day and provide a lot of the things that we take for granted during the day. And people are working and getting up in the morning and doing that, and their kind of trials and tribulations over time to get themselves decent wages and decent hours and things like that. Jeffrey, give us a little background about yourself. I know you've been involved with the festival for a long period of time.
Right. This is going to be our 17th year.
Wow.
And we just now have our new program printed, and we'll be referring to that. And we have a website with all this information about the program.
Good. We'll have that on the screen, of course.
Reelwork.org. I was one of the founding members. I think, Sarah, you were probably involved in the first year too, right?
Yeah.
I think you were.
Maybe.
And I like to tell the story about how it started.
Please.
There were a couple of active retiree members of my union. I'm now retired, but I was an active member working member for a long time. And these retirees were saying, well, you know, we have a retirees meeting every month. Why don't we show some movies about labor stories? And I thought, well, this is a great idea. We could teach some of our own members about what the history is of our labor movement. Why union members should care that there's a union. You know, the 8-hour day and the health and safety standards and pensions and employer-paid health care. We take these for granted now. A lot of people have that. Well, nowadays it's a struggle to try and maintain those benefits, but there was, you know, decades and decades, centuries of worker struggles to bring those about. So anyway, we're talking about a lunchtime movie showing, and we happened to Bernice Belton got involved, and she and I went and met with Jim Schwenterly of the Nickelodeon Theater, and Bernice gave him a pitch, and he couldn't turn us down. He couldn't turn her down. So we, first year, we got the big screen at the Nickelodeon and the Del Mar.
Well, there you go.
Right, and that really gave us a good kick start. And the first year, we tried to do everything. We had, you know, dozens of programs, and we had all of our events were like 4 hours long because we tried to do double features.
Oh my gosh.
And we wore out the audience, and we wore ourselves out. And now we're into a little better routine. You know, have a reasonable number of films each year.
And people that have been to the festival, excuse me, over time, will always remark about the quality of the films, you know, the production value of the films, you know, how professional, you know, these depictions of labor and labor struggles are, and how entertaining they are, over and above the fact that they're really treating, you know, very serious and important points, that they're also entertaining, and there's a value to be able to sit there and kind of reflect on it. And wonderful, you show the brochure. Every year you have a fantastic brochure that lists all the films, just terrific. And make sure that we have the website on the screen, so people will know kind of where to access this, and they can look for themselves to see kind of what the bill of fare is going to be. But I want to remind everybody that this is a live call-in show. We are live every second and fourth Sunday of the month between 7 and 8 o'clock here at CTV. So that number is 425-8848, extension 630. 425-8848, extension 630, and you can call and ask Sarah or Jeffrey a question if you like as we go through and see. I'm very excited to start looking at some of the trailers, so please introduce the first one if you'd like.
Sure. A couple of the early films are about the criminal justice system. The first one is highlighting how it's really severe punishment, how solitary confinement is really inordinate punishment. And so that film is called Cruel and Unusual. It's the story of the Angola Three. Actually was 4 black men in the Angola prison who did some organizing, and they got put in solitary confinement for the total for these men was 113 years.
I'll be darned. Wow.
And 3 of them have survived it and got out.
Remarkable.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see that trailer. Really looking forward to it. This is Cruel and Unusual, the story of the Angola Three. So let's take a look at that.
The cells are very small, maybe 4 or 5 steps, the length of the cell, and about 3 steps the width,
And these men, I mean, if they did not do this, and I believe that they didn't, they have been living a nightmare for 36 years.
I don't know of any place in the world where people are held in solitary confinement for over 3 decades.
Thought that my cause then and now was noble. They might bend me a little bit. They may cause me a lot of pain. They may even take my life, but they will never be able to break me. We're fighting for the people to understand that we will.
This call originates from a Louisiana correctional facility and may be recorded or monitored.
That we were praying for murder, that we are totally and completely and actually innocent.
You have 15 seconds left on this call.
Let me call you back.
And I'll add my own observation. Our friend Willow Katz is a great champion of ending solitary confinement, and we have an action the 24th of every month to signify the 24 hours of solitary confinement, 23 actually. And it's a statewide coordinated action to end solitary confinement. So just a shout out to Willow and the great people who I'm very pleased to be involved with in that.
Right. Her organization, the End Solitary Santa Cruz County, she has really been behind organizing this event, and she made contact with Professor Craig Haney at UCSC, and that's part of his work has been involved in. He's a professor of psychology and law, and he's been involved in some important legal cases about solitary confinement.
Yes, indeed.
And so the university is really an important partner in this event. This is going to be our first event on Sunday, April 22nd.
So that's opening night?
Right. For us,
wonderful.
that'll be our opening night.
And anyone who hasn't heard Craig Haney speak, or Marie Levin, for that matter, who will also be there, is really in for a treat, because not only is he informed and knowledgeable and certainly experienced in the area, he's a wonderful speaker and really gets you engaged with with the issues. So terrific program, and really looking forward to that. And that opens your festival opening night.
Right.
Wonderful. Now you also are going to have before we see the next trailer, just to mention, you're also going to have events not only in Santa Cruz but also other places, so people would know that.
Right. A number of events in Monterey County, around several at the CSUMB,
Wonderful.
State University of Monterey Bay, in Marina or Seaside, and a few other places in Monterey County. We also have a couple of events in San Jose. So these events happen because there are people who've been involved in our organizing group who are from those areas, and so they just build a little local film show part of our festival in their areas.
Well, it's wonderful to see not only the awareness of the issue expand, but also geographically people have access to these films, and again the importance of reflecting on the importance of labor. But I think we're ready to see. Please.
On the criminal justice theme, a couple of days later, on Tuesday, April 24th, we have an event focusing on no money bail, and this is an important issue statewide.
Absolutely.
There were some bills in the legislature last year, and they've come back, and there's going to be more pressure to actually, because it's been proven in many other places that requiring poor people to pay money doesn't really increase their return to trial on their trial date. But what it does is the money that they have to pay really causes breakup of families and really puts people at a disadvantage, and makes the insurance companies rich. And so we're really happy to have some discussion of that issue.
And statistically, there are far more people who are incarcerated awaiting trial, without
That's
bail than there are
Yeah.
people who are there who have been convicted of crimes. So
That's
it
true.
really is has
Yeah.
become not only a poor tax but a class tax, and
Right.
it simply needs to be completely overhauled in the state of California. The legislature has started to take a look at that, so it's a wonderful opportunity to really see a film that's going to maybe clarify some thoughts about that for people.
Right. Statistics I've heard are, as much or sometimes even more than half the people in jail
Exactly.
have not been convicted of a crime.
That's right.
And we're talking, it's a real issue both in this county and statewide,
Mhm.
the prison overcrowding population. Half those people don't have to be there
Right.
or shouldn't be there.
And that's really germane to even our local jail system, which customarily runs at 100 or 110% capacity. And I've asked the chief jailer, so well, how can you run anything at 110% capacity? It's because they move prisoners around. So there's actually in the system more people than the system can accommodate at any given time. So it's interesting. Okay, you want to move on to another
Sure.
the second trailer here?
Sure.
You want to introduce that one, or?
Yeah, Black Snake Killers.
Okay.
Yeah.
A no DAPL story. DAPL, of course, being the Dakota Access
Mhm.
Pipeline, and
Right.
one of the critical events of resistance in the past year or so was at Standing Rock in North Dakota and South Dakota. The Standing Rock, the Sioux tribe there at Standing Rock Reservation didn't want this oil pipeline crossing their country and going through their sacred lands and potentially poisoning the water, and so they deemed themselves water protectors. And we're actually going to have two major films because we thought it was such an important issue, such an important event. We're going to have a film toward the beginning, this one, Black Snake Killers, and later we'll get back to the other one, Awake, toward the end of our...
Which we also have a trailer for, so
we'll
we'll see
that one later.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and see Black Snake
Please,
Killers.
let's see the trailer for Black Snake Killers, a Nopal story.
We are standing for the water every moment, and that is the first and foremost that anybody should be thinking about, because the water is life. I am really worried because I don't want anybody to be hurt.
We're on the front lines right now. We're gonna fight this pipeline. We're gonna fight big oil.
Water. We need with Tony.
We're protecting the water. We do this to stop the desecration of Uchimaka.
course, the No Dapple story, as Jeffrey's corrected me, is such an important one. We've had several events here in Santa Cruz that have really highlighted the importance of that. And we will note that the Romero Institute, as the host, has done wonderful, wonderful work around this issue and continues to. So,
a couple of the filmmakers, the filmmakers call them their video collective is called Unicorn Riot. And two of the video journalists are going to be with us.
Wonderful.
For our presentation.
Great. And unfortunately, one of the more interesting, and they're all great films and very interesting films to offer is Dolores, of course. We don't have a clip for that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. That's going to be the following night. The Black Snake Killers will be at the Resource Center for Nonviolence on Wednesday, April 25th. And then in Watsonville, Thursday, April 26th, at the Appleton Grill Ballroom, they're screening Dolores. So tell us, Sarah, tell us a little bit about that film, if you would, please.
Well, it's the film that my union, Pajaro Valley Teachers, and the Watsonville Film Festival are working together to film, to show the film Dolores, the story of Dolores Huerta, who started the Farm Workers Union with Cesar Chavez. So we're really excited to show that movie. I know some people might have already seen it. If you haven't, I think it's really well worth coming out and seeing the story of this remarkable woman who just still, even to this day, is out speaking and, again, for working people. Her life story is gripping. At the same time as being an activist, she was a mother and 11 children.
Remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean,
life.
it's really talking about multitasking, you know. But her power is unbeatable. So we're really happy to have that. We're having it's also being held at the Appleton Grill. The Appleton Grill it's going to have food, so if you want to come early and have something to eat, it should be really a wonderful event. And I'm really hoping that that if you're looking for a good time, come out to Watsonville and see the movie Dolores on Thursday, April 26th.
Absolutely.
Also, all our events are free. We do take a donation if somebody has a donation to give us, but they are available, and one of our major funders are the local unions and the Labor Council. So this is really a union event in many ways.
And although I've never been to the Appleton Ballroom or Grill, I will say, we have a phone call. Wonderful. All right, let's see what we have. Hi, you're on community television, Voices from the Village, talking about the Reelwork Labor Day, Reelwork May Day Labor Film Festival. You have a question for our panelists?
Yeah, how can normal people make an impact and actually get something done? I mean, the solitary confinement is just outrageous. I personally think the entire criminal justice system needs an overhaul or needs to be scrapped. The penal system absolutely needs to be scrapped. It is not, every time they try to reform it, it gets worse. The idea of prisons for profit is outrageous. I don't know how all of this became legislation. And I'll take my answer off the air.
Thank you, caller.
Well, I think thank you for that question. It's a very good question.
It is indeed.
And what the answer that I would give you is that the way we actually do live in a democracy, and the way these laws are passed are by legislators that we have elected. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't bother to get involved in the electoral process and don't bother to register or vote or understand the issues. And so one of the purposes of our festival is to raise awareness about the important issues and hope that we spur people to get involved and take action. Certainly the Willow's organization in solitary Santa Cruz County, they're going to be enlisting volunteers at that event. They have a statewide, they're linked with other organizations statewide, for that precisely that purpose, to do lobbying and push for legislation to make those changes that you see are really necessary.
And of course, I'd mentioned Will earlier, a fierce advocate for that. And we've had, when we've done our actions monthly, we've had Marie Levin has come down and spoken, and other really key people who have been pursuing this for long periods of time, and people who actually have loved ones who have been incarcerated and in solitary confinement for years, and have only been able to visit them through a plate of plastic glass for a few moments, and take these hellaciously long and expensive trips. So there's been a lot of organizing around that, just to try to bring families together, but also to highlight the fact that this is a barbarous treatment of incarcerated people.
Once people get out have served their time and are done with their probation in California, felons do regain the right to full citizenship and to vote. Yeah. And so therefore, as they reintegrate in society, they can have a voice in the future legislation. That's only true in less than half the states in the United States. I just read an article about Florida, where there's 1.6 million former felons who've completed their sentencing and paid back whatever was required for their crime, and they are permanently banned from voting, and that's disproportionately poor and black-skinned people.
And you bring up a very important point about being engaged and registering to vote and actually casting your ballot, making your voice heard. This is an off-year election. 4 years ago, only 34% of the people who registered to vote in Santa Cruz County voted. So that is the challenge, is to get people out, to raise awareness, to get them to, if they have a concern, as this caller does, get out and vote. Express that to your legislators, or elect people who are going to be more reflective of what you believe should be what our society looks like.
Well, also, too, I think what he was talking about, how things get done, is almost all of us have some time and something we care enough about. There's too much for each of us to take on everything. But even if you feel something strongly about one thing, and for example, if this is an issue that this man is concerned about, coming to this event, getting connected to other people that care, and being part of a movement that brainstorms about ideas of things to do, that's how you get things done. And it's really hard for a person to do that alone. But find your group, and if you just find one issue, that can really move mountains.
And I appreciate that. You illustrate what I think is one of the most important points about Reelwork and about the struggle for fair wages and hours labor, is the passion. People are passionate about this, and they should be passionate about it. Right. So, Sarah's expressed it, I think, not only eloquently, but very passionately, and I appreciate that, because that's what really comes through when you see these films. There is a passion about them that you may not be able to appreciate in some other kind of a forum.
Right. There's a phrase we use, bread and roses, and we've been talking a lot about the passion for, basic human rights. But then there's also a whole other sphere of human experience, the beauty and the arts and so forth. And that's kind of the theme of our next film,
please, yes.
Which is Friday, April 27th at the MA, the Museum of Art and History.
Wonderful venue,
Cruz.
By the way.
Yeah.
Our good friends over there.
Yeah.
So a famous muralist, Edith Boone, will be present for the screening of this film about her and her work, called A New Color, The Art of Being Edith Boone. And she's a muralist, and she's going to be down here and talking about her film and the mural projects that she does, and teaching young people to be artists and painters. And the work that she does always has a social context, and so that's why we find that it fits very nicely into our criteria for the Labor Film Festival. In what way? I mean, we use that term broadly. Labor film, we like to show films that show common people, working people,
Right, yeah.
getting organized to take collective action to improve their lives and the lives of the people in their communities.
Yeah, well, wonderful sentiment. Let's go ahead and see the trailer, A New Color, The Art of Being, Edith Boone.
I'll probably drop dead doing some murals one day. Say, oh yeah, she loved what she doing. My dream was to develop a new color that no one else would have ever seen in life. It hasn't come true yet, but that was a dream of mine when I was a little girl.
Wow, I'm getting to work with a famous muralist who's worked on hundreds of murals with hundreds of kids. I've just been feeling like boom, boom, boom.
1, 2, 3, 4. I was never really encouraged to be an artist or anything. I don't think anybody took me seriously. No art supplies board or anything like that, you know. Sometimes I had paper. What I want you to do is think about water. Think about how it feels and how it looks.
Well, the whole mural is supposed to be about health. I don't see any organic produce market like a block away from your house.
I always tell kids, you can't change your beginning, but you can sure put a nice, beautiful ending to the story. You could do it, Betty. You did it 3 times. I know you could do it.
I'm born 1932. I'm 82 years old. And I learned a lot through the art program. It's like going to school again.
Kitty got shot 10 times on Sunday.
I have 3 sons and grandsons, tall, beautiful grandsons. Every time that they would walk out the house, I would have a fear that maybe they wouldn't come back. My nephew was a guy that got choked to death. I'm really doing it for the kids, for my grandkids, for my great-grandkids, for the kids that I've met in my life. Okay, you're getting carried away, Christian. Go on.
Okay, and we're back. Sarah pointed out that there is, in conjunction with the screening at 5 o'clock, a mural making activity in the lobby, and anyone who's been over at the MA certainly sees how colorfully it's been decorated over there, but maybe we can do something indoors to liven that as well. And it was, we were talking about, I didn't realize, as I had seen in the description, that Eric Gardner is the nephew of Edith Boone. So that's so socially relevant.
Right.
Really.
Right. Many of our evening films are at 7 o'clock, and this is one exception.
Mm-hmm.
This is an earlier show with the mural making activity happening at 5 in the courtyard, and then the film at 6 o'clock.
Wonderful. Well, they can catch the light over there, and you know, opinions vary about the new Abbott Square, but certainly it's a community space, and if they can use it for events like this, then, and in conjunction with the MA, that's always done great work, then certainly we applaud that. Okay, well, we're moving right along. That's something that would be very interesting for people. How about the next night, which is Saturday, April 28th, which is Workers' Memorial Day, I noticed.
Yeah, Workers' Memorial Day. The last year that was counted, 2016, 5,200 people died in the United States at work, on-job fatalities. Yeah, so sometimes you go to work and sometimes you don't come back. Or there's also been, you know, of course, people who are injured as well at work, and many people know that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's one day out of the year where we can think about those kind of things. And on that evening, we're having, that's Saturday, April 28th at the Resource Center for Nonviolence. We're showing Union Time, Fighting for Workers' Rights. the story of the Smithfield foods strike that went on in the pork plant in North Carolina. So that's always a great. That story has been told a few times. If you haven't seen it, come this time. It's action packed, And we're also going to have Dana Franks from the department, professor of labor history at UCSC. Yeah. She's going to be speaking too, and she's very lively and also very knowledgeable.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as I read, and people really should pick up again this wonderful brochure because it does have some synopses in here that kind of tell you a little bit about the film and what you can expect before you go in. But that's in the description. It sounds upbeat at the end because it ultimately resulted in fair working conditions for 5,000 workers. So it's nice to see, to the extent that it is, a success story about workers actually achieving some rights.
Yeah.
Right. The issues, and the reason why we're showing it on Workers' Memorial Day is because this 15-year union struggle was mostly over working conditions and safety at the work plant. Yeah. This was a pork processing plant. People in a speed-up situation always encouraged to work faster and faster, and they all have really sharp knives.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most dangerous, that maybe, and coal mining, underground coal mining. Those are about the most dangerous occupations.
And I do think that it broadens the theme. So often we're thinking about, in terms of unions and labor and working people, about fair wages or better hours or the ability to have some maternity leaves and things like that. But we sometimes forget that working conditions, as you pointed out, that several thousand people are dying to go to work and they don't come home to their families.
Yeah. Yeah, your job description is very important.
I should say.
As a unionist.
Well, let's take a look then at that trailer, Union Time, Fighting for Workers' Rights.
How do y'all treat people the way y'all treat people? I mean, we're human. How can y'all just treat us the way y'all do and not even think about it? But they don't ever give you any kind of reaction. They just make it a little joke.
What do we want? Justice! And when do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! And when do we want it? Now! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace!
Smithfield is based on lies, deceit, and cover-up.
Now, I talked to a representative today, and he told me no one has ever been fired for supporting the union.
Oh, yes, they have. I'm one of them.
From the beginning, a number of the plant's 5,000 employees complained of abuse, low pay, and high injury rates.
The idea of 1,000 workers striking against a company who was threatening them because of their immigration status when they were totally vulnerable. And they did it anyway.
Maybe there was one or two small plants where something worse went on, but in terms of a major corporation, a large workplace, thousands of workers being affected, what the company was doing to those workers was outrageous.
Even though I'd been in a combat zone, I was seeing things inside the facility that would, shock me sometimes.
They try to use that fear tactic on them, like they get up in your face and point your finger at you and spit all in your face and curse and using profanity and all that.
I say, well, why can't we have respect? Where do we get this respect from? Who can we get this respect from? That's why I joined the union, because that's what we needed.
This story is about a movement. It inspires people from all walks of life who come together to fight for justice, that there is reason for hope.
You got to first get the fear out. After you get the fear out, you good to go. When I got that fear out of me, I was like, man, there won't nothing could stand in my way then.
Of course.
You had a comment that you were making about?
Oh, I was just talking about the teachers striking in Kentucky and and Mississippi and Oklahoma. I think are the three places where you know, especially those of us in the union movement have really been just wringing our hands about how it just seems like we're just losing more and more members and losing more and more power, and then all of a sudden this upswelling of people just seeing the need and getting organized, getting together, and then going out there and just saying, yeah, we're not going to put up with this anymore. So, you know.
And these are a lot of the states throughout the southeast part of the United States that most of the states have right-to-work laws, which makes it very hard for working people to even organize into unions.
Right.
So I'm sorry to say that it's probably because the conditions are so bad that it forces people to realize that they need to get together and change them.
I'm thinking that it occurs to me that teachers seem to be very well organized and seem to be unionized to a degree that other than the auto workers and some of the heavy industry workers now, and I wonder why that is. Is it because there's a strong union?
Well, if they could offshore us, they would. and I'm telling you, and they've tried. You know, I mean, there is that movement of that. You know, you don't even really need teachers. You just put a good computer in the room, and kids can all learn off the computer. So they haven't been really successful in that for reasons I can kind of understand. Yeah, you need it. You know, I mean, education is a intimate, personal relationship between you and your students, and so I think that's why, because you still need to have teachers in the classroom.
Well, it's wonderful that unions can be powerful and effective, but it's also wonderful that people are unionized. You know, and then you can do what you can with that particular organization. That's why I commented kind of about the teachers who do seem to be unionized to a degree, and are now using that power, as you know, as you mentioned, in some states. You know.
Yeah.
When I was in high school and we studied U.S. history, you know, I learned about the rich white men who were leaders of the country, but I didn't learn I learned hardly anything about unions and the story from the working people's side. Howard Zinn, of course, has written a great book, and you know there have been other good works, and we try and build on that tradition of really promoting or highlighting the history and the struggles of working people, and you know, occasionally a success, not always, but we keep pushing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's great observations and stories.
So next on the program, we have a show on Sunday, April 29th in the afternoon about DACA. DACA is, of course, very much in the news, and there's millions of people, you know, several 100,000 young people in California alone whose future is completely up in the air. And so what we have is two filmmakers coming to this event showing their shorter films about the DACA experience, or the experience of people who came to the United States when they were very young with their families, you know, having really no roots in their country of origin, and they've lived their whole lives in this country, and now they're being told, well, you don't belong here, we want to send you back. Back to where? You know, this is their home. This is where their life is.
Well, that's wonderful, and people should really, even if they're a little uncertain about DACA, and there is some ambiguity, I think, in the average person's mind about, you know, who it impacts and how it impacts and why it's so important and why we should really be in support of those people who have lived here their whole lives, as you point out. So films like that, if it helps to clarify, you know, those ideas, then I think it's not only worthwhile, but certainly something that's, you know, that's informative as well.
Right. So the filmmakers Corey Ohama and Brenda Avilahana are going to be present, along with Gabriela Cruz, who's the organizer of the local Santa Cruz Dreamers Project.
Wonderful, yeah. And I was just, I think, at an event not too long ago where the Santa Cruz Dreamers were present, and very inspiring, you know, to be around them. All right, thank you for that. That's Sunday, April 29. That's also at the Research Center for Nonviolence. Wonderful venue, by the way, and thanks for everybody who's worked so hard to make that such a great place to show films, have meetings, you know, be engaged and really be a part of the community. So, all right, now...
Yeah, Tuesday, May 1st.
International Workers' Day.
International Workers' Day. That's why we hold our festival at this time of the year, because one of our goals is to bring back May Day, International Workers' Day, as the real Labor Day.
And not just a few of us dancing around a pole, but also something a little more important and relevant to workers.
Right. Interesting history about May Day and International Workers' Day. The Homestead strike in Chicago, about the 8-hour day in 1886. There was, massive demonstration of working people, protesting for shortened work hours. Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, was about that period of history where also meatpacking plants, very dangerous work, and people worked very long hours and six-day weeks. So during one of these demonstrations, there were some policemen killed, and it's never been really determined who were the perpetrators, and it could have been agent provocateurs, but several of the organizers, several of the leaders of the 8-hour day movement were framed for this, and several of them were hanged. And so it had a real effect in Europe, and the Socialist International in Europe, in commemoration of that event, declared, because this was right around May Day, they declared May Day as International Workers' Day. And that is now probably the widest, besides some religious holidays, it's probably the most widely recognized holiday throughout the world. Most countries recognize May Day as International Workers' Day, and many countries it's a holiday, and there's big parades.
And before we screen this final trailer we have tonight, I will say that when I traveled to Europe, I arrived on May Day.
Oh, you did?
And I had never seen, and we're in France, I'd never seen a larger gathering of people, both students and labor, which is very different than, that was many years ago when students and labor, of course, were at odds here in this country, and to a certain extent, maybe they have achieved some solidarity, certainly could be more. But I just was overwhelmed by this, what's going on here? Well, it's International Workers' Day here. And there's a huge throngs of people, both workers and laborers and students who are all together in solidarity. And I said, my gosh, I need to know more about this.
So in this country, in the last couple of years, probably the most significant international event that occurred on U.S. soil was, again, at Standing Rock. There were people from, all the First Nations throughout this continent, throughout this hemisphere, came to be supportive of the Standing Rock tribe there. Wonderful. And so we're, in commemoration of that, on International Workers' Day, we're showing the film Awake, A Dream from Standing Rock. And so we're showing these two major films about Standing Rock, and they're quite different. And we had a hard time just picking one over the other. We knew that we wanted to recognize this important event.
Of course.
And we decided to go with both because each one shows a different aspect of the struggle. This one, of course, being Josh Fox, famous filmmaker. We've showed films from him before. Of course,
yes, indeed.
And we figured that, he's very good at high production value films, so we picked that film to show at the Del Mar Theater, which is, of course, the widescreen. We always have a show at the Del Mar, and we try to do that as our big May Day show.
Another fantastic venue. People should enjoy the Del Mar. So that's a great introduction. Let's quickly see that trailer and then come back.
I am not dreaming. I'm awake. I have been woken by the spirit inside that demanded I open my eyes and see the world around me. The images are burned into my mind. The sounds of my people screaming in horror.
What are we doing? Our land is under attack! Stand up, fight back!
For us, we're connected to the earth, and that's why we protect the earth for future generations.
Our food sources, our waterways, when the environment changes, we feel it.
What's going on here at Standing Rock isn't just about Standing Rock. It's not just about stopping a pipeline. This is about the survival of humanity.
The Dakota Access Pipeline is proposed to carry billions of gallons of crude oil from North Dakota to Illinois. To do that, it has to run underneath the Missouri River, the water source for 17 million Americans, and the only source of water from a Standing Rock nation. We call ourselves water protectors. We are here to protect the water. Thousands from all over the world came to pray with us, to face the fear with love. We are something new on the planet, but we're not. We are something very old. We are warriors of peace. We won't surrender.
I need to report an assault. There are innocent, unarmed people being attacked with water and high-powered mace.
If there's police there, then it has
The police are the ones attacking innocent, unarmed people. Who protects the people from the police?
Well, the next person to talk to would be the governor's office.
Love is the strongest, this path is the hardest. But if we weren't strong enough to do it, we wouldn't see it. Our prayers would not be needed. This movement's very needed. Indigenous wisdom unheeded and sacred things depleted. We are a peaceful people, that's why we walk with prayer. And if that wasn't true, we wouldn't be standing here.
We're back, and I will say that that looks fascinating. The speaker for that night will be Danny Sheehan, who is, of course, well known here and nationally, Lakota People's Law Project. He was the counsel for Chase Iron Eyes in his lawsuit. And the event host, I'm very proud to say, is the United Nations Association, of which I'm a board member. So thank you for allowing us to really show this very important film. We've got about 5 minutes left, which is plenty of time to kind of give the folks some last thoughts and some more information and whatever you think people would like to know about the Reelwork May Day Labor Film Festival.
Yeah, we'll just quickly tell you about the last couple of films.
Please.
Right, on Wednesday, May 2nd, is going to be the film Tomorrow. And tomorrow is going to be at the Resource Center for Nonviolence at 7 as usual. It's sponsored by the Peace and Freedom Party and WILF, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom.
You're here?
It's a movie that travels around and finds communities that have had successful solutions to problems. And this is one of these, when we're deciding on the films, we go to Jeffrey's house and we have a great dinner, and then we set up and watch, it's about 5 minutes as our time. And then some of us will go watch more of it. And this is one I watched more of than the 5 minutes, and really enjoyed seeing the in-depth visits to these places and seeing what their problems were and how people, we've talked about all this whole show is people getting together, seeing a problem and solving it.
Yes, indeed.
So that's tomorrow, and I think it...
And then our last film in Santa Cruz on May 3rd, Thursday, May 3rd, again at the Resource Center for Nonviolence. We're going to show a film, an older film called The Internationale. And that is... that's a song that's been sung around the world as part of the socialist and communist labor movements. And this one is starring Billy Bragg and Pete Seeger, and Billy Bragg has updated the words a little bit. And so we're going to see the film, we're going to have a little, I guess we're probably going to start with a little performance by the Santa Cruz Peace Chorale.
Oh, wonderful.
Which always puts on a show labor film related to music. And then at the end, after watching the film, we're going to teach this song to the audience, and we'll have a big chorus.
Will it be accompanied by your famous drum, perhaps? I've never been anywhere in Santa Cruz to any march or event where Jeffrey hasn't had his drum, so it's iconic.
I think I'll be singing.
Okay, it's iconic in its own way. Well, one thing, we got another couple of minutes. One thing that I really wanted to mention, we got a minute, is how wonderful it is not only to see these films, but be there with your fellow community members. You know, to be with people who are concerned, who are engaged, who are interested, and then maybe afterwards you have a conversation about it.
We have a conversation. We try to help the people in the audience who've just seen this dramatic show, help them relate it to their own personal lives and to the conditions and the issues right here at home.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful work. As I say, this festival is not only a traditional but iconic in Santa Cruz. Thank you for all of your great work, Sarah and Jeffrey, as always. And please look at the bill of fare and pick out a few and go and join your fellow community members in really honoring labor and knowing more about it than we came into. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to seeing several of these films myself, so we will see you down the road. Thanks again for tuning in to Voice from the Village. This has been Steve Plach. Please tune in 2 weeks from tonight when our good friend Sandino Gomez, I say, will be hosting a panel on the rail trail as a very controversial and complex issue here in town, and then we'll be having many more shows as the Voices moves and the Voices family moves through the year. So thanks to everybody behind the cameras in the engineering booth and for making the magic tonight. And thank you to Jeffrey again and Sarah for being here and all your wonderful work. So I've been Steve Plach. Good night. We'll see you next time. That's fantastic.